Hello friends, how are you? I hope all of you are doing well. Today in this video, what I'm going to discuss is about the new recent updated syllabus for class 11 mathematics. There's a small confusion with all of us because it's all new, so certain things are removed, certain things are not removed. So I would like to share with you what I feel about the syllabus. Not whether it's good or not, actually, it's a very great move, it's a welcome move because in this trying times we are all stuck, and then so it's a very good move actually on the part of the NBSE. I really appreciate that. So but confusion in the sense like, okay, what has been reduced, what has not been reduced. So I've gone through it once, and then I would like just to share with you of what I know. As I always say, I'm not an expert, so but I would just like to share of what I know, if it might be helpful to some of you. And then of course on top of that, the system also has changed from this year 11 batch. 12 batch this year is not going to be affected with that, only class 11 batch, because now the marking system also has changed, distribution of marks also has changed, question paper pattern also will change. And then unlike other years, it's not going to be 100 anymore, full marks, external 100, no, it's going to be 80 and 20 even for class 11. And next year the follow-up of class 11, that is going to be class 12. This year class 12 batch, they will remain, I believe, as it is. So without further much ado, and then of course I'll be talking about the internal assessment maybe in the later part of the video, so please stay tuned till the end. And then yes, you can bring your pen, paper, textbook and just note down, and then if I may be of any help, I'm always willing to share what I know, because knowledge is all about sharing. Knowledge is not something that we keep it only for ourselves. Okay, now without wasting much time, let's go back straight to the syllabus, that is class 11. So if we just start with like, I'll not go unit wise, okay, for now I'll just go chapter wise. So chapter 1, that is sets. So what happens with sets is nothing has been changed, it is as it is, it will remain as it is, so there is nothing to delete from that particular chapter. Going to chapter 2, that is relations and functions. I'll just write it in short, relations and functions also, no changes at all, it will all remain as it is. When you go for trigonometric functions, that is going to be chapter 3. So in trigonometric functions, there are some changes, not the entire exercise, just some changes. That is like general solutions of trigonometric equations of the type. So general solutions of the trigonometric equations. I believe you have your textbook with you. So general equations, solutions of trigonometric equations of the type, only this type, sine theta equal to sine alpha, cos theta equal to cos alpha, tan theta equal to tan alpha. So general solutions of this type of course will be removed. That is basically actually from exercise 3.4. So it's from exercise 3.4, but it doesn't mean that the entire exercise has to be removed, okay? Absolutely not. That means only those questions which are based on this three concepts, that is sine theta equal to sine alpha, cos theta equal to cos alpha, tan theta equal to tan alpha, will not be used, or you don't need to study, at least for this examination, for this academic year. Again, I repeat, not the whole exercise, not entire exercise 3.4, because there are many problems based on sine theta equal to 0, cos theta equal to 0. We have the principal solutions also. So those of course you will study. Okay. Now next, moving on to chapter, I hope you have your pen and paper. You can always pause the video and note it down also. And then of course, yes, another part is exercise 3.5. Exercise 3.5, what I believe is maybe the entire exercise may be removed, because it just talks about proofs and applications of sine and cosine formula. Proof and applications of sine and cosine formula, that is the sine and cosine formula, projection formulas, Napier's analogies and all. So I believe that the entire exercise 3.5 may be removed, because that exercise is just all about proof and application of sine and cosine formula. Now moving on to chapter 4, that is, I think, principle of mathematical induction. Chapter 4, that is about principle of mathematical induction. So chapter 4, principle of mathematical induction, you can completely delete that. That whole chapter you don't have to study for this academic year only. Again, I repeat that. Okay, so chapter 4 fully delete. Now chapter 5, moving to chapter 5. Chapter 5, that is about complex numbers and quadratic equations. Complex numbers and quadratic equations. Now some changes here, that is quadratic equations in complex number system, that is about exercise 5.3. Quadratic equations in complex number system. So exercise 5.3 will not be included, I believe, this year. Then the other one is the following exercise, that is again exercise 5.4, that is square root of to find out the square root of complex numbers. So exercise 5.3 and exercise 5.4 would not be needed for this academic year. Then when we move on to chapter number 6. Chapter 6. So chapter 6 is about solutions of, linear inequalities. Chapter 6 is linear inequalities. So the first part is solution of linear inequalities in one variable, graphical solution. So what has been removed is solution of system of linear equations in two variables. So that is basically exercise 6.3. Okay, basically exercise 6.3, but I repeat again, in 6.3, if there are any solutions based on single variable, one variable and all, I think there is not. But if there is, then that can be used, okay? But they just talk about solution of system of linear equations which are of two variables, that is x and y, basically x and y, two variables. That will not be included. That's it. Chapter 7. Now chapter 7, of course, is a very important chapter, okay? Permutations and combinations. So chapter 7 is actually very important for the future also. So here, of course, what I would suggest is, of course, some portions are removed, that is like derivation of NPR, that is the main basic formula, NPR and NCR formulas, so derivation. So maybe problems related to NPR and NCR are, they are not in entire exercises, but in every exercise there are one or two problems based on NPR and NCR. But here, of course, what I would like to suggest is, it won't make take much time, and that is, of course, like, this is a very important topic because this talks about combination and permutations. Okay, so this talks about combinations and permutations and combinations. So this is a very important chapter, not only for class 11, for the coming years also. So I would rather advise you just to study this chapter. Maybe not for the examination point of view, but don't ignore the chapter completely. Because there are word problems also which are there, and this is a very practical chapter, so try to study this chapter. That would be my advice, but of course that depends on you. What they say is derivation of NPR and NCR formulas will not be included, but I would say you better study this chapter because it's a very important chapter in the near future also, because it's about problems on permutations and then combinations. So this is a very important chapter, so I would not advise you to skip this chapter. Maybe whenever you get time, spare time, you please study this chapter. For the examination point of view, okay, you can just ignore the topics which are there. And then of course chapter 8, that is binomial theorem. Chapter 8, which talks about binomial theorem. So that, of course, you can completely delete. Okay, that chapter is excluded. All right. Chapter 9, sequence and series. Chapter 9, sequence and series, you can delete exercise 9.1, exercise 9.1, you can delete exercise 9.2, because these are topics which you have already studied in class 10, arithmetic progressions. So you can just completely delete that. And then of course exercise 9.5, because exercise 9.5 is all about summation of the first n natural numbers, sum of the squares of the n natural numbers, sum of the cubes of the n natural numbers. So you can just delete that exercise 9.5 too. No need to study that particular exercise. And then of course chapter 10, that is about now coordinate geometry and all. So chapter 10 we have about straight lines. Chapter 10, that's about straight lines. So in this chapter 10, what has been removed is shifting of origin equation has been removed, like shifting of origin. Shifting of origin. So that would, I think, make up, exercise 10.5. Exercise 10.5, shifting of origin, that is exercise 10.5. No need to study that particular exercise. And then of course, equation of a family of lines passing through the point of intersection of two lines. Equation of a family of lines passing through the point of intersection of two lines. So that's basically about exercise 10.4. So I think, because I think exercise 10.4 is basically about intersection of two lines, family of intersection of two lines meeting at a point. So I think exercise 10.4 also you can ignore. So 10.4 and 10.5. Then of course we have chapter 11. Chapter 11, that is about conic sections. Chapter 11, that is about conic sections. So conic sections, of course, maybe you can just ignore this parabola and hyperbola. The rest, of course, are quite important, basic things we need. So the rest, I would suggest you to just study. There are certain topics which are also there, but I would suggest you just study that, because the basic things always needs to be studied to move on to the next topic. And then ellipse is there, circles is here. So I would suggest you just to study, because these are very important. Actually, to be very frank, parabola and hyperbola is also very, very important, because in class 12 there is a topic in calculus integration where we find out the area of bounded regions. And these two topics basically we haven't studied in class 10, hyperbola and parabola. No, small traces are there, but not the equations and the standard equations. So in class 12, there are certain topics, integration. So integration actually is a vast topic, okay, vast topic. So maybe not in class 12, you might just not need that, but definitely when you go to college or when you go for higher studies, these topics will come. And in class 11, it's not that big topics are given to you, just the introduction, just the basic foundations, just the, very nicely it's written there in the textbook. And also, if you can get time, if you can afford to, definitely you should as a student, you should actually study this parabola and hyperbola. Maybe at least understand what it is exactly. Maybe not to memorize the whole, not to study the entire exercise and all, but at least understand what is a parabola, standard equations, hyperbola, always going to be useful. You're not going to regret that. Same as I said for permutations and combinations also. So these are topics which I would suggest, even though it's not included in the examinations, for your own knowledge, very important. Then of course we have chapter 12. Chapter 12 that talks about a small topic, a very small topic of three-dimensional geometry. So here distance between 2 points, that is basically about exercise 12.2. That is distance between, I hope all of you will have a copy of that, distance of, otherwise you can download it from the NBSE website also, distance between 2 points. So distance between 2 points has been removed, that's basically exercise 12.2. Then, of course, we have the calculus portion, that is exercise chapter 13, limits. So chapter 13, basically nothing much is removed, just two topics, that is the value of the limits based on the logarithmic and exponential forms, that is log of e, 1 plus x divided by x, and limit as x tends to 0, e power x minus 1, e power x minus 1 divided by x. So basically these two topics make up exercise 13.2. So basically these two topics actually make up exercise 13.2. So you can ignore, you can just exclude these two topics. That's exercise 3.2. But I remind you again, okay, if there are certain questions in the exercises, because they have not say completely delete the whole exercise, just to these topics. So and these topics make up the bulk, majority of the exercise 13.2. So for your convenience, I'm just giving the exercise 13.2. But in case if there are questions on other formulas, other limits in the exercise 13.2, yeah, definitely you should study that. Okay, you should study that only based on these two. No need to study for the sake of the examinations, but actually you should study everything for your knowledge. For knowledge, you should study everything, because these are all important chapters. Chapter 14, reasoning, that is completely deleted, so you can just remove that completely. And then of course we have chapter 15, that is statistics. So statistics, I will just the coefficient of variation. maybe the last exercise, I guess, coefficient of variation of same mean and different variances and all. Coefficient of variation, analysis of frequency distribution with equal means and different variances. So that is basically about coefficient of variation, maybe where variances are different. So there are some problems in the last exercise based on coefficient of variations and all. So you can just exclude that. So nothing much has been removed from chapter 15, and chapter 16, that is about probability. So probability actually they say based on axiomatic approach of probability, and then set based on set theory, the concept can be ignored. I mean, no need to study, but that are the basic that you have already studied in class 10 also. So some basic things which have already been studied in class 10, they may not be repeated again, but this is a very small chapter in class 11, this probability. So there is no point in just not studying it, because these are again very important for class 12 again. So these are not very big chapters that, okay, for example, sequence and series, they were big chapters, one exercise is removed. Okay, that's a huge relief. For probability, this is already a very small chapter. The same concept, continuation of class 10 only, slightly bigger concept, some more, slightly more concept, but almost the same only. So you won't waste much time studying those topics which are very important. But axiomatic, they say that axiomatic approach to probability can be ignored, but that's a very small topic. So my suggestion, certain topics which are important for the future also, maybe not for the examination point of view, but I don't think you are studying only for the examination point of view. I believe you are studying definitely with an aim in life. You have a vision for your future. So I would suggest, actually, to be very honest, study everything. If you have studied, that's why I said, if you have studied everything before in the last 2-3 months, don't regret. That's always a bonus for you. And then if you haven't, then maybe you can just delete certain. Okay, you can just delete those chapters completely. Those which chapters are completely deleted. Even that is, I think, a huge relief. So otherwise, I would rather not advise you to certain like probability. There is actually so little. So why delete? I mean, why choose from that also? You just study because it's continuation. So it's going to be good for you. But you want to stick to the examination point of view, well, that's up to you. We all have our different opinions. I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm not telling you to do it, okay? I'm just sharing my opinion of what I know. So that's what has been removed and slightly reduced, which is actually, I repeat again, a very huge welcome relief for the students. The next is about distribution of marks. So distribution of marks will be, that also has changed. So chapter 1, 2, 3, that is a unit 1, that will comprise of 20 marks. Okay, chapter 1, 2 and 3, that's unit 1, will comprise of 20 marks. Then the algebraic portion, that is 4 has been removed. So 5, 6, 7, 9. 8 also has been removed, binomial theorem. 5, 6, 7, 9, that will comprise of 30 marks. Then of course we have chapter 10, 11 and 12. Chapter 10, 11 and 12, that will give you 13 marks. Okay, chapter 13, that will give you 7 marks, that's the limits. And chapter 14 and 15, that will give you 10 marks. Chapter 14 and 15, that is statistics and probability. 14 and one chapter has been reduced actually. Please give me a moment. One chapter has been reduced, that is come on, nikalo. What did I repeat here? 14 is not there, so this is going to be 15 and 16. 14 deleted, right? So 15 and 16 will be 10 marks. Okay, so this is the distribution of marks. Now coming back to the most important part, that is the internal assessment, which will be, that means this is broken apart and it's total of 80 marks, isn't it? Like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Alright. Now the remaining 20 marks, it is not going to be exactly as it was in class 10. Slight changes are there. This 20 marks is broken apart into 10 plus 5 plus 5. This 10 mark will be about periodic assessment. This 10 marks will be about periodic assessment. So periodic assessment will be in the form of exams or class test. So basically 3 examinations and then or class test. That will depend on generally examinations. So that will depend on the course of the syllabus, and it will be done keeping in mind the board question paper pattern only. So in the form of examination, I guess. So that will be in the form of examinations, and then basically 3 examinations or 3 assessment tests, out of which the best 2 will be taken and averaged into 10 marks. Okay, so maybe the examination may be of 50 marks also, no problem, 50, 50, 50, 150. So the best 2 will be taken, and then that average will be again averaged to 10 marks. Alright, so that will be the periodic assessment. This is going to be, of course, activities. So if you remember in class 10, you have done some activities based, and then of course for that you had a separate textbook, and then you maintained a separate notebook. Now for that notebook, of course, I'll come to the point, but what kind of activities from which book? So now for that, of course, the board has actually given a link where through that link you can go to the NBSE website and then get the download the PDF file of the mathematics lab manual. So you can go to the link and then download the mathematics lab manual for class 11 NCERT, or you can just type in the keywords NCERT maths lab manual class 11 mathematics. Definitely you will get the PDF file. Okay, but see to it that it's NCERT, okay, not some other sources again, because it definitely it's going to be different, and of course yes, your teachers also will definitely guide you there. So now regarding the notebook only, what I understand is you will not be maintaining a notebook here from this year. From what I understand is most probably what will happen is, for the activities generally, for the normal years, of course this is a very unique year, so we will all have to find out our own innovative ways on how to do this activities and all. So that will completely depend on the teacher. But normal years, normally what will happen is maybe you will be doing these activities in one of the class working hours, in one of the class maybe in week 1 class, or that will depend on the teacher on how he manages the classes. So but you will be most probably doing it in the classroom along with the teachers. So during that activity, the teacher will be of course observing your activities, your enthusiasm, how well you participate in the practical activity. The teacher will be guiding you, maybe ask you oral questions, because definitely your practical activity will be conducted only after a chapter is complete. So only after a chapter is complete, your activity will be conducted. So definitely you will be expected to know some basic things. So maybe when you're doing the practical activities, your teacher will just ask you some oral questions, some questions based on why, how, and all. So on that, based on that, he will be assessing you throughout the whole year for all the different activities, where he will be maintaining a record, and that particular 5 marks of course will go to that this 5 marks which is based on activities. Not like class 10 where we used to maintain a particular notebook and then we submit. That will actually go to portfolio. Okay, that should actually go to portfolio. So for activities, generally you will do it along with the teacher in the classes, or depending on the convenience of the class and the teachers, and then from there only the teacher will be assessing you, asking you oral questions, asking your interest, looking at your enthusiasm on doing the practical, your cooperation. So based on that only he will be awarding you the marks, this five marks that you have. Okay, so I hope that is understood, right? So once again I repeat, the teachers along with the students most probably will be doing the activities in the classroom in one of the class working hours, where the teacher will be assessing all the students, asking oral questions, maybe looking at your interest, how you're cooperating, your neatness and all that, and based on that, based on that only this 5 marks will be allotted, not like a separate notebook and then maintain a record and all, no, not like that. Slight change, I believe. So then the next one is an interesting one, that is this portfolio. So actually portfolio is something like a diary, which something like a what do we call it, a record which we maintain throughout the whole year of how you have been, like everyday recordings. So under this portfolio, this practical activity also will come. This practical activity record may also come. Maybe you might be just, you will be like, whatever activities you do, you will be keeping a record of it, right? You will not be throwing it away, isn't it? So you will be keeping a record of the activities serially, now depending on the date. So where a teacher will sign, your parents may sign, maybe you will also sign. That depends on the teacher, of course. So you will be keeping a record of the practical activities that is done in the school. So that can also be, that will also go to this portfolio, a certain amount of mark, not the full 5 marks, because there are a lot. Maybe the classwork also will be part of the portfolio, where you will be maintaining a record regarding your classwork. The classwork in the sense, maybe when we do certain exercises, maybe the teacher from an exercise does maybe around about, let's say 7 questions. So the 3 questions you maintain, maybe you do it in a separate notebook or in the same notebook, and then you maintain, and then you get it corrected, the teacher tells you to do it, something like a homework also, right? So the teacher will be doing, so classworks, problems which are not done in the class, or in other words homeworks also. So the teacher also will be maintaining a record about that. And so depending on the regularity of submission, neatness, basically on how enthusiastic you have been regarding your classwork throughout the whole year, homework, so that will also go to this portfolio. So from there also your marks will be assessed. And once again I repeat, recording of activities of course will be done in the portfolio only, no separate notebooks for that. Whatever activities you do, maybe you will just pile it up in the form of a file or whatever. You will just keep the record serially, date, time, signatures of the teachers once it is completed, and so on. And then of course records of classworks, homeworks, and based on like how regularly like you are carrying out the assignments or the assigned tasks, or your impressive work display throughout the whole year in the mathematics class. Your teachers will be assessing you in all these factors from a total of 5 marks, and then there are some students actually who are not good in studies, but in the way they represent, maybe they are very good artists, maybe their write is very good. Peer assessment also will be there. Your students also will be given, your friends also will be given a chance, but generally this 5 marks, of course, I believe only teachers will be awarding these 5 marks, but maybe you can just interact with your peer group, with your friends also. So they will come up to a common conclusion, the teacher being the head, of course, he will come up to a common conclusion, and then maybe you may not be very good in your studies also, but you are very impressive, you have very impressive writing skills, the way you write is very neat, very clean. So because see, exam is a separate part, this is a separate part, so I don't think anyone should actually usually that is what happens, but actually that should not happen, okay? Even sometimes we also end up doing that, so it's actually not good. Of course we don't do that in the what I mean is, like, sometimes marks are actually, these internal marks are actually influenced by these external marks. Actually that should not happen. I believe that it's not happening anywhere, but what I mean to say, it should not happen, because like this internal assessment will be completely based on your activities throughout the whole year, on how a student is. For that, of course, 10 marks is there, based on the periodic assessment. But this 5 marks activities, so maybe not very good in studies, but recording, cutting, cooperation with the teacher may be very good, so he might just get the full 5 marks out of their portfolio. The student may be very regular in classwork, assignments, may be very neat and clean, his writing skills, drawing skills, he may be very perfect, maybe exceptional. So these are all these marks which can be awarded to the student, which will complement the marks that he gets in the external marks. So that's what this portfolio means. So a total of 5 marks. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks. So 5 marks means like poor. So someone who is like not very cooperative, not shows any interest. 2 marks means like okay, fair, no, okay, not very bad, not good also. 3 would be like average, average, like okay, sometimes, every time does, but maybe his writing skills are not very good, he's not very neat in writing things, he's not very good in drawing, no, average. Good means like okay, he's good in drawing also, he's good in cooperation also, he's good in his writing skills also. That will be 4 marks. 5 marks will be like excellent, almost perfect. Of course, nobody is perfect. I'm also not a perfect, and being the best is of course always a relative term. That is my opinion. So being the best or being a perfectionist or perfect, this is just a relative term that we use. So nobody is perfect, but of course everybody can be excellent in what we do. So there can be some students who are just very nice in writing. Their handwriting is so good, cooperation is so good, top level every time, with the teachers, with his friends. So they will be awarded this full 5 marks. That means excellent in whatever they are doing. Alright, almost perfect. As I repeat, nobody is perfect. We all try to be better, that's all. So this is how the breakup of the internal assessment will be done. So I hope that it is clear to all of you. Definitely I will be of course willing to listen to your queries also. And then of course the marking system, the question paper pattern also, there will be a small change. That is, there will be 8 MCQ questions. Okay, 8 MCQ questions, that is 8 into 1, that will be 8 marks. And then of course there will be again another 8 very short questions, that will be 2 marks. So 8 into 2, that will be of course 16. There will be another 8 short questions, that will be of 4 marks, so that will be 32. And then of course there will be 4 long questions, that will be of 4 long questions, that will be of 6 marks. That's going to be of course 24. So I believe the total is 80. 10, 20, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's going to be your 80 marks. So 80 marks, that will be your external examinations, and the remaining 20 your internal assessment, which comprises of the periodic assessment, portfolio, and the practical activities. So this 20 marks is actually supposed to look into your overall development, into the overall development of a student, on how he came first, and in the course of the year, has there been any transformation in that student positively, then give marks. No changes, then of course needs for improvement. So that's how you will be assessed for this internal 20 marks. So that's what it is all about, the new syllabus. So I hope you have all, I could clarify your doubts. From what I know, as I always say, I'm not an expert in what I do, but I am just trying my best to share with you of what I could understand, so that it may be of some help to many of you. So with that, of course, I would say thank you for listening and looking through the whole video. Looking forward to more videos in the coming days. So alright then, bye bye, see you, take care.